Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. As we look around the globe through the Emerald Planet and the Emerald Planet TV, we're always looking for the 1,000 best practices. So we're right back at home in Washington, D.C., and we're glad to be here. But we're looking at a city that's very progressive and wanting to have everyone off of fossil fuels by the middle of the 2030s. And so we have a gentleman with us that's actually leading the charge for this. His name is Ben Colbert, founder, CEO of City Renewables. And he's going to talk about zero electric bills and zero cost in our kickoff. And Ben, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Hey, Dr. Hancock, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Looking at City Renewables, tell us a little bit about that, how it started, and why it's so important for the city to have an organization, a company like yours, to help to lead the charge as far as getting off of fossil fuels and powering the entire city with renewables.
Sure. We started City Renewables to respond to the city's request to go 100% renewable energy by the next decade. And we are working every day to help homeowners understand the benefits of solar, both financial and environmental benefits. And we want to just get the word out. It's a great product, and we're excited to help folks.
Well, I think it's absolutely wonderful. Looking at this rooftop, it's quite elegant. The roof panels are very lovely. Tell us why that the city is so accepting and adapting to solar panels.
Sure. I think DC wants to set almost like it's almost a beacon for the United States in terms of being progressive and wanting to go 100% renewable. And we have a very aggressive plan to do it. And I think it's almost a perfect storm. Again, Washington, D.C., Washingtonians are very progressive and they want clean energy. And the city has responded with great incentives to do this. And it's the only place in the country where you could actually make income from doing what's right for the planet.
I think that's an absolute great summary and a wonderful philosophy. And looking at the cityscape here, most of these panels are going up all over the city, but most people can't even see them. How is it that you're able to install these and within a day, people don't even know they're there anymore?
Sure. In DC, we have a lot of very unique houses, row houses, where you a lot of times can't see the rooftop. So you have to really look hard at the rooftops, and you can see sometimes them peeking off the edges. But I think it's very powerful whenever you go through the neighborhood and you see these installations going up, and it's exciting work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, looking at this as far as the zero electric bill, zero cost, you're having these, they're installed. People very quickly forget they're even there. Why is it so important that the city is really wanting to allow the homeowners to have no cost as far as their electricity and even be able to sell power back into the grid?
Sure. Washington, D.C. is, again, a very progressive city, and really is, folks want to know where their energy is coming from. And as we become more educated on how you get electricity, and folks are becoming more uh, interested in knowing that their electricity is clean, and
Mhm.
solar panels offer a clean option where you can generate your power just directly from your rooftop.
Mhm.
And I think folks really like having that feeling, knowing that their electricity is coming from 100% renewable energy source.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, this is really a very telling photograph right here. How these panels actually are just integrated right into the roof. Why do you think that's important? Not only just aesthetically, but as far as the community being accepting of the solar power.
Sure, solar panels have come a long ways. They're not as bulky as they used to be. They're very sleek and clean, and we
Mhm.
try to make installations as sleek and clean as possible. And we'll custom tailor the installation to the homeowner's needs, and we want to make sure that it's welcomed in the neighborhood. And I think the aesthetic part is very important. And as you can see, they're really nice looking. They're techie, they're new, and
Mhm.
I think communities responding well to them.
Yeah, and I know a number of people that actually have the solar panels, and they're very proud of them. And so, if you're walking by and kind of looking at it, they're in the yard. They'll say, "Hey, what's up? Look what's up on my roof or on my porch." It's just, it really is interesting the dramatic change as far as attitude and acceptability. But taking the panels and bringing them out, we're going to go through later a step-by-step installation, but these look very innocuous and, nothing offensive about this whatsoever.
I don't think so. I think that they're really techie looking. Just the world's changing, and we have to respond to climate change. We must reduce our carbon footprint,
Hmm.
and I think that we can do it in a nice way. Solar panels now are really nice looking, and
Hmm.
whenever you start looking at, I always bring in electric cars also as the new wave. And when you have solar panels powering your home and your electric vehicle, it's just modern. It's
Hmm.
folks really enjoy it, and I think the looks are important.
Yeah, I think looks are very important too. Now, installing these, this is something that really is high technology that you're doing. But actually, after a number of installations, the people that you're hiring from right in the neighborhood seem to adapt to these very easily. What makes it so easy for people that maybe have never worked with any power tools or been involved in construction, within a very few day or weeks, actually are up putting these in? And as you said, you can actually install these on most houses within about a day.
Sure. Yep. I call it the solar journey. Whenever folks decide they want to move forward with a solar project, we walk them through each little step. And really, the longest part of the process is usually just the education process,
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
showing them how the benefits work, showing them where to research the benefits. And once they find out that the benefits are real, and this is a good thing financially and environmentally, it's really easy. They get the green light, and it just takes a couple weeks for us to get building permits and the utility approval. And we come out one day, and we do the racking and clip the panels in. And it's a super quick process. And
Hmm.
folks are really excited and really surprised at how easy this process is.
Hmm. Now, looking at this, going to the zero electric bill, zero cost, because these are installed very quickly, the whole system is very efficient. How does that go back to this zero cost as far as the homeowner is concerned? And having these systems to be that efficient, not just for generating power, but actually to be installed.
Sure. I mean, the whole driver for solar and renewable energy is driven by cost.
Mhm.
You know, we have to be as efficient as possible in the materials, our process, each step of the way to ensure that the cost is lower than what you're currently doing with your utility company.
Mhm.
And each little step is it's specifically engineered, each material specifically engineered for efficiency. So
Mhm.
over time, solar panels have been gotten more efficient. The racking system is more efficient. The process just each day it becomes a little bit more efficient, and that's just driving the cost way down to where again you can essentially make income from solar panels. It's that much lower in cost than what you're currently doing with your utility.
It's just absolutely amazing. Looking at the tool sets seems very simple, but people still need to be trained. So efficiency as far as the materials is concerned, how do you allow the people to learn their skills quickly and safely? We have to add, and to be as efficient as possible.
Sure. Yeah. Safety is very important, and training is very important. And there's multiple aspects of the industry. Also, you really, I don't have to have a lot of knowledge coming into this, and we train you. And before long, you start working your way up. And there's the sales marketing aspect. There's the actual building of the systems. There's the finance aspect. There's a lot of different areas with different skill sets,
Mhm.
and it's only been recent. Where this industry has really exploded. So there's so much opportunity, and solar companies are more than willing to train you, and you just have to be willing and excited about solar. And
Mhm.
if you've got that down, then you're going to be okay. And it's stuff that we can teach you how to do.
That's absolutely fantastic. And looking at using the tools, it looks like safety first really is one of your mantras and your mottos. So, in your training program, how do you really teach everyone to be safe?
Sure. Well, I mean, whenever you're working in construction, you've got to be, make sure you're very safe. You're working on a rooftop, so safety is very important whenever you're building solar panels, and also whenever you're dealing with electricity, you need to make sure that you're properly trained and have the right skill set,
Mhm.
especially the portion where you're tying into the main panel.
Mhm.
But on the other side. The products also make it safer. So now we use what's called micro inverters, and they convert the electricity from direct current to alternate current,
Mhm.
which really reduces the risk of like electrocution or anything like that. So
Mhm.
as we develop in this industry, safety is always number one, and things are getting much safer, and there's very low risk of anything happening with solar
That's
panels.
fantastic. Okay, and this is going into the tie-ins that you have. And let's go out on this particular image right here because we're going to come back to the step-by-step installation. But sleek automobiles, transportation, sleek panels on the homes. What do you see for the growth and development over the next 5 to 15 years, Ben, for this industry? And we have to be quick. You got about 20 seconds.
Sure. Yeah. I think this photo just shows it all. The future is solar and electric vehicles. This Model 3 right here runs completely off of solar power, and it even drives itself on the highway. You got to be very careful with it, but it'll drive itself.
Mhm.
Whenever folks know about this technology and learn about it and understand how it really works, there's no turning back. It's certainly the future, and it's an exciting future, a clean future.
Fantastic. Ben Colbert, thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Dr. Hancock.
As we look around Washington, D.C., we're looking at a city that's really on the move as far as going to 100% renewable energy for its homes, businesses, nonprofits, communities of faith. Everywhere they want to have renewable energy. And so we're talking with a gentleman, Ben Colbert. He's founder and CEO of City Renewables. And we're going to be talking about how solar energy replaces your power bill. And this is really his story as far as City Renewables and how to help the public to move forward. Ben, welcome to the EmeraldPlanet TV.
Thanks for having me on.
Looking at City Renewables, great name, but I like your tagline, building a clean future. How is the work that you're doing really building a clean future?
Sure. I mean, almost every aspect of your life revolves around electricity. And you want to know that your electricity is coming from a clean energy source. We have been burning fossil fuels for a very long time, and now folks are really concerned about where they're getting their energy source. And as we become more and more educated on how you receive your energy, I think it's becoming more and more important for folks to know that it's coming from a clean energy source. Mm-hmm. And Washington, D.C. is essentially a beacon in the country for renewable energy. And it's really exciting to see what's happening in the city.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at this is a great photograph. Of course, this is you standing on a rooftop installing the solar panels. What excites you each morning when you get up to know that you really are bringing solar energy to replace power bills, but also fossil fuels as an energy source for the District of Columbia?
Sure. You know, it's a really fun industry. I'm always smiling on rooftops, and it's bringing so many jobs. It is a fast growing industry, and it helps the community in terms of jobs, and also it helps building owners and homeowners reduce their electricity costs. So it's really a win-win for everything. It's hard to find a negative in the renewable space.
Well, and the whole thing about it too, when you get win-win-wins like that, the people within the community, Washington, D.C., many of them have not worked outside their communities, and all of a sudden they're becoming knowledgeable, but leaders as far as what's going on in the world. I think this is very exciting. So looking at a presentation here to the homeowners and telling them why this is important for them to do, what are some of the main points that you like to bring out?
Sure. I mean, we focus heavily on climate change and reducing the carbon in future generations, how we're helping in that mission. But really, I think folks need to know the financial benefits of solar power and how the project works. So once you understand how each one of the financial benefits work, mm-hmm. It's just a matter of who you're going to work with at that point. And but it's a little bit complicated. There's nuances to how the benefits work. But if you're able to communicate that properly and get the word out, I think it's very important for folks to understand how all this stuff works. And mm-hmm. we're here to try to help as much as possible on helping folks understand.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that's very important. Now, I know this is something near and dear to your heart. This is a electric power charging station. It's in Washington, D.C. So we think about the solar panels that are on the homes, the businesses, the office buildings, maybe even manufacturing. But we don't think about all the other types of technologies, jobs, and technology that's actually being transferred into the city. So what are we looking at right here? And why is this really an advancement for the whole society?
Sure. This is an amazing project that I was so grateful to be a part of. This gas station is called the RS Auto, and this is the first gas station that was ever converted to electric vehicle charging and solar power. So before these chargers were installed, the community really was giving them a lot of negative feedback on how they were operating, and it was just old and dirty, and they gave them a lot of flack for it, and they took it in and converted their gas pumps to electric vehicle chargers. Mm-hmm. And we helped them convert the rooftops to solar power. So on top of that canopy and on the main roof in the background, there is full of solar panels, and it just really shows where we're going. And it's just amazing to see how early adopting that they were, and it was just a great project to be a part of.
Oh, and it's also great to have that example here in Washington, D.C. But the interesting part is how you're going into the neighborhoods and recruiting people that physically live in these neighborhoods, uh, teaching them and allowing them to be the persons in turn that are going to teaching their elders. It may be their parents, their aunts and uncles, their grandparents, neighbors. But why is it so important to teach the youth? And I can say both of you are quite young, uh, to help with everyone else in the community.
Sure. It's going to take everyone to jump on board with this to make this successful. For the city to be 100% renewable, we have to have all hands on deck.
Mhm.
That's younger folks, middle-aged folks, elderly, anyone that wants to be a part of this. I am always happy to help. If anybody has any questions, I'm always there. I probably drive people a little bit crazy how much I talk about solar, renewable energy all the time, but it's just my passion and I love talking about it. And anybody that I could find to talk to, I'm always willing to help and spread the word about what's happening.
Well, and that's what it's going to take to do the replacements. Looking at the workers that you have, these are all coming out of the local community, which is quite impressive because you're building, hundreds, actually over several thousand jobs within the district itself, which is absolutely amazing. These really are new green jobs. Why is it important that they learn this technology and then in turn be able to communicate to the others, even the elders in their own homes, about how they can replace their power bill by using solar energy?
Sure. And again, there are going to be thousands more jobs created. And there's really any skill level, any job that you want, you can get there by just learning it.
Mhm.
There was no education that you needed. I didn't study solar in college because there really wasn't. I learned on the job.
Mhm.
And anybody that's willing, again, that has the passion can jump into this. And there's going to be so many jobs. And it is a lot of younger folks coming out of college are very excited about the renewables and the opportunity. And a lot of times they teach their parents or their grandparents that own houses and buildings about how this works. And a
Mhm.
lot of times it is driven by the younger folks educating the older folks owning these buildings. It's really neat to see, and all ages, are excited about this. But it's just exciting to see, especially whenever younger folks are teaching their elderly parents or grandparents about it.
I think it's fantastic because hopefully the elders are passing down wisdom to them, but they're passing knowledge up, and I think that's very exciting. Tell us about this special photograph here. What's going on, and why this little machine right in the middle of you? And both of you seem very pleased with yourself.
Yeah, being on a rooftop in the sunlight is just exciting in general. But this picture, I'm showing a friend of mine how the solar panels are work, and I'm looking at the monitoring system. These systems are very complex and very advanced, and I can just pull out my phone and I can tell you how many kilowatt hours my solar panels are producing in real time right now. And there's a lot of different data that you can look at. And every time I pull it out, I get excited about it. And, this is kind of what it looks like whenever I'm
Mhm.
explaining something to somebody or about solar that they have no idea about.
Yeah, but looking at it too is how are you transferring this knowledge to this young man, and he in turn probably will influence another, 8, 10, 15 people about the benefits of solar. Just what you're teaching them out of your phone right there.
Yeah, it's all about education. Again, once you know about the how this stuff works, it's not quite rocket science, but a lot of the knowledge is very limited still in the population, and I think it's just fun to learn
Mhm.
about new technology and solar. It's fairly complex, but again, it's not super hard to explain, and
Mhm.
whenever you're excited and like what you're doing, I think, just the transfer of that energy is powerful. And, I love teaching people how to solar panels work.
Yeah, no pun intended on transferring that energy, and it's powerful. It's excellent. But being on the roof, explaining the systems, letting others learn about this. Why is it so important? And we only have one more question after this one, Ben. Why is it so important that the people in the communities really do understand what's going on over them and about them as far as solar energy is concerned?
Right. I mean, it's tough to talk about sometimes, and it's hard to understand how climate change is going to affect our lives and in every aspect of it. So it's very important to teach people to help and to do what you can to preserve future generations.
Mhm.
And also, it's not all negative either. You can save money. You can even make an income source in DC. So it's just very important for the environment and for your pocketbook. So
Mhm.
it's nice to be involved in an industry where you get to be in business, but you're also doing what's right. And I think that I really enjoy being a part of this, and it's very important to me.
Yeah, and I think what you have is a social responsibility company, and that's very exciting because that's really a blend between the nonprofit and the for-profit world. And so many businesses, but so many nonprofits are going the same way. So it's interesting, and of course, this is a gentleman that we are just talking about that's actually in the community, learning about what's going on around him as more and more solar panels are involved. Two thumbs up. What do you see for more installations, more conversions, and more solar energy replacing the power bills for citizens across Washington, D.C.? And we got to be quick.
Sure. I mean, there's going to be thousands of jobs created in just the district, and thousands across the nation doing this. We're just now scratching the surface, and there's so much work to be done. And we're all hands on deck, and it's going to be a really fun ride over the next few years and into the decade to do this. And I'm always willing to help and do what I can, and we're going to keep working every day and converting buildings to solar power.
That sounds great. Ben Colbert, thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you very much.
We're looking at the future of renewable energy and a city that's going to 100% renewables, but not just into the future. It's actually actively working at it right now. So we have a gentleman, Ben Colbert. He's the founder, CEO of City Renewables. And we're going to go through a step by step installation of a solar energy system, how it works, why it's important, and how, if you're a homeowner, business owner, community of faith, nonprofit, whatever it may be, in Washington, D.C., and truly across the entire United States, this is what you're going to be seeing. So, Ben, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Say, looking at this photograph here, this car, how is this a symbol of the future of Washington, D.C., but not only Washington, D.C., the whole United States?
Sure. I think you see, a new shiny car, new technology. It's an electric vehicle in an alleyway where we work. Whenever we show up to solar sites, we're always squeezing into alleyways. And I think this photo really embodies like the grid of DC, the urban landscape. and where we're revitalizing things. We're bringing in new technology. We're powering houses from the sun. You can connect your car directly into your solar panels, and you're running off of clean energy.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, looking at it, this really is a high tech industry, and we're looking at the back of a solar panel. Tell us what we're looking at, and why all of these connections are so important and critical as far as producing the power from the sun, but getting it to the end user.
Sure. So a solar system has a few different components. You've got solar panels. Each solar panel is connected into what's called an inverter, and then you have a conduit that runs down to your main panel. So this is showing you pictures of solar panels and those little connections on the back, where the electricity, it's direct current that runs into an inverter that converts it into alternate current, what we use in the grid, and then it'll run directly into your main panel, and you use what you need to directly from those solar panels, and then any excess is rolled back in through your meter and sold to your utility company.
Mhm. I think this is just absolutely incredible. Having the solar panel sitting out here, very sleek, sitting on the ground, ready to go up. The amazing part about this, Ben, is 6 hours later, you're actually, in some cases, turning on the power to the whole house.
Sure. Yeah. It usually only takes about 6 to, sometimes eight hours if we got a bigger system. But this is the first step. You unload the equipment, and the crews show up on site, and you see the ladder in the background there. Once we finish the racking system on the rooftop, those panels are just shimmied right up by a rope and connected in, and we tie it into the main panel, and dust our hands off, and get out of there as fast as possible, as
Mhm.
efficient as possible.
Yeah, and this is really what you're talking about is taking it up the ladder and putting it on the roof. And I know this is something that you really emphasize, of course, is safety, but it really shows how simple this process is.
Yeah, again, it's not rocket science to build these systems anymore. The technology is really sophisticated and efficient, to where it allows us to build these systems really quickly, and there's not too much work involved, as long as you're trained and understand how it all works.
Mhm.
It's quite fun each
Mhm.
day.
Now, being on the rooftop, of course, this is really the guts of everything that's going on. And you've thrown out a few terms about the racking and the wiring and the solar panels. How are we seeing here how everything is starting to fit together in this step-by-step installation?
Yep. So, I mentioned that there's a few components to a solar system, and a really important component is going to be how the racking system.
Mhm.
And you see those beams right there. They're triangle beams that are specifically designed for solar installations. It's specifically designed for row house installations.
Mhm.
And how we do it is we bolt them into the parapet walls, so nothing is attached to your main roof. It goes into the really strong parapet walls that can hold thousands and thousands of pounds.
Mhm.
And you first bolt these beams into each one of those parapets, and then they have specific grooves that are designed to hold screws that clip the solar panels in. So it's really a lot of design goes into these to make them as efficient as possible.
Mhm. Now, using the power tools that actually kind of the, if we will, the next steps. How does all this work together, and how are they trained to know exactly, what screws go in, how tight to make them? We're being a little nerdy, high techy here, but I want to do that so that the homeowners, the business owners, really understand this really is quite simple, nothing to fear, and can really change the life for you, your family, and your employees.
Sure. As I mentioned, everything's at this point is all specifically designed for solar installations.
Mhm.
We have specific screws, we have specific beams and racking devices that allow you to safely and efficiently install these solar panels. So I mentioned before you have a racking system, and you see that silver line going down. That's what's called an iron ridge rack, and there's a little groove in there, and these solar panel screws have a little platform, if you will, that secures them directly into that beam. And
Mhm.
once they're secure, they're stronger than your roof. I always joke about the reason that you'd have to replace a solar panel is if you have a tornado that comes down and sucks up your house, it's going to suck up those solar panels. So you're going to have some problems. But these solar panels will handle hail, really high winds, and they're almost indestructible now, and very safe.
That's amazing. And also, too, I thought it was very interesting. I want to not leave this point right now, but how you're actually putting the racking into the perimeter walls, and so that's where all the weight is distributed. It's amazing how you put this together. In many ways, you're actually strengthening the house when you're putting the solar panels on. Correct?
Right. I call solar panels a iPhone cover or a cell phone cover for your phone.
Uh-huh.
The solar panels are made of really, really strong silicon. There are videos of people almost hitting them with baseball bats, and
Hmm.
they're almost indestructible.
Hmm.
They're certainly a lot stronger than your roof.
Hmm.
So if you have any kind of hail damage, if we have a really big hailstorm, your roof is going to be damaged before, or the surrounding roof before the solar panels. But usually your roof is covered by the solar panels, and the solar panels protected, and they'll extend your roof by 5, sometimes 10, 15 years.
Hmm. Yeah, and I've heard that too. Just as keeping the heat off the roof extends the roof itself another 5, 10, and 15 years. So it's amazing what you're doing, the benefits that people don't even think about or talk about. And that's why I think the step by step installation stroll together is so critically important. What is happening now as far as getting that solar, that power that you're collecting in the solar units themselves down to the meter?
Sure. So what we're looking at here is going to be this is one of those beams that go across the parapet walls. And each one of the solar panels, whenever they're laid down, they're going to have an inverter underneath that's called a microinverter. And each panel has a little wire, a plug that hooks into that portion that you see there. That's the shorter portion of the wire. So that's plugged into there, and each one of the panels are connected, and and those cords allow the electricity to travel through those wires and into a conduit that is connected directly into your main panel.
Mhm.
So during the daytime, you're using electricity just directly from the sun that
Mm.
travels through those wires into your main panel. And then again, any excess that you're using will roll back out through the meter, and your meter rolls backwards, and your utility company will buy that electricity from you.
Mm, I think that's amazing. Now, again, we're looking at a little different angle, but tell us how this is, again, extension of what we were just looking at as far as collecting the sun energy and then sending it down to the main panel.
So this is another image of one of those microinverters. So each panel will have these microinverters are installed before the solar panels are attached to the
Mhm.
rack. And each one of the solar panels are connected to these microinverters. And they're pretty simple to install.
Mhm.
You can see that you essentially just connect those cords, and everything is specifically designed for efficiency and ease of installation. So thousands and thousands of hours of engineering has gone into each one of these products that we use. to make it more efficient and cost effective, time effective, to cut down the cost of solar panels.
And one thing too, having been in supply chain most of my professional life, these things are designed so I should say perfectly, but they really are, so that there's virtually no waste of materials. And I think that's another thing that people need to realize too. We're cutting down on having to mine and process raw materials, and so they again, that's a savings to the environment and cutting down on what's going on as far as greenhouse gas emissions. Let's march through this. We got a couple more steps. And what's happening here, Ben? And I'm just going to take you to the next slide right after this.
Yeah, this is the most interesting part. I think of a very interesting picture, and I get comments from people that are very seasoned in the industry about pictures like this. You see, what he's doing is mapping the system. So each one of these microinverters are communicate through Wi-Fi to your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So each one of these microinverters has a barcode on it
Mm-hmm.
that corresponds with a monitoring system.
Mm-hmm.
And this picture is showing how we take those barcodes out and we map the system. This information goes into what's called the in-phase monitoring portal.
Mm-hmm.
And you will be, as a customer, you'll be able to see each solar panel and how much electricity that each solar panel is producing. And if a solar panel is not producing for some reason, it's covered under a warranty. So we'll know and come out and fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is really very important, and it shows how this is fit together. Tell us what we're looking at here. We've actually run out of time. I'm going to give it to you anyway. What are we seeing here?
Sure. So this is going to be like the final connection of how the solar panels are connected into your home. So you have the panels on your rooftop. Whenever they're hit by the sun, electricity is going to travel through a conduit that runs down your house, and we screw a hole through the wall and connect this into your main panel. And once it's connected, then that electricity can travel directly into your main panel, and you use the sunlight directly to power your home. And then any excess will go back through that meter, and it's sold in back to the grid.
Mm-hmm.
And that picture right up above the screwdriver, that's going to be your safety shut off. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
very
just absolutely
safe.
fantastic.
You don't need to shut it off. You just shut it right off right there.
This is very elegant. Thank you, Ben Colbert, founder, CEO, City Renewables, as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you very much.
Looking around Washington, D.C., here in the United States, it's dedicated to remove all carbon emissions from the use of power, going to 100% renewable energy for the houses, the businesses, communities of faith, schools, everything is being converted over. And Ben Colbert, founder, CEO of City Renewables, is part of this movement to bring and building a clean future in Washington, D.C. So, Ben, looking at this very densely built urban environment, what are we seeing here that's quite unique among all of these very classical structures?
Sure. Yeah, I really love this photo because it shows this is Capitol Hill, and Capitol Hill has been converting to solar power at a really rapid pace. But it's one of the oldest, most historic parts of the city. And this photo really captures how many rooftops and how dense the population is. And if you look close, you could see about 20 to 25 different solar panel systems in here. I count a different number every time I count them.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. But looking at, you have something that's very modern, very sleek, very high technology, yet it's being put among all these classical buildings. Some of these are over 100 years old. So, how do we do this and how do you blend it together so that this actually, the past is the future?
Sure. So we work in a lot of historical districts in DC. Some of these houses are over 100 years old, and it's really important to us to keep the historic look, while also modernizing the homes. It's way important, too important, in this mission to convert all homes to solar power. But again, we keep we like to keep the facade. So one thing that we do, typically you'd have a conduit that runs down the front of homes. But in these homes, we actually specifically design the conduit where it can travel through the interior of the home, keeping keeping the front facade nice and clean.
Hmm. And also, too, one of the things I wanted to point out here is the number of trees, and we're going to go back and comment on that in just a minute. But this is Jimmy Carter at the White House, one of the most famous, iconic homes in all of the world. And yet, this is really a monumental step forward as far as solar energy. And regardless of the ages, people know about this situation many decades ago. Why is this so important? Jimmy Carter and the solar panels on the White House.
Sure. Yeah. I love this photo, and Jimmy Carter is one of my favorite presidents because he converted the White House to solar power. And I always post this picture on President's Day, and it's just really cool. It's also one of my number one goals in DC to convert the White House back to solar power.
Mhm.
So, history, Ronald Reagan actually took the solar panels down after Jimmy Carter. So, it's really important to me. I love this photo, and my number one goal is to convert the White House back to solar power.
That's fantastic. Now, the built environment, this is really a very interesting photograph. Looks like a place where my friend lives on the Seine River in Paris, France. But tell us the importance of not just the love locks, but this uh, bridge that's being built among all communities across Washington, D.C., regardless of the divides over, say, 50, 70, 100 years ago. The city's coming back together.
Sure. This is one of my favorite photos. I wanted to include it. It doesn't have solar panels in it, but I wanted to include this because this is my neighborhood. I'm an Eckington guy, and I'm on the board of the Eckington Civic Association. And this is North Capitol that actually divides these two communities into Northeast and Northwest. And Northeast has traditionally been less developed than the Northwest because of these big roads that go through the middle. And I think solar power, it has the potential to really reconnect
Mhm.
these areas and provide new jobs to areas that were traditionally undervalued and overlooked. And it's important for me to really help my community. And that's why I wanted to include this photo, because it's very special to me.
Yeah, and also too, I think we have this super highway that we can't even see, the super grid that's really rejoining these communities. And I think this is really a classical photograph of just how you do that. You have all these traditional buildings, yet you have this modern super graphic home right in the middle, and you're powering it with solar. Tell us about this and why it's so important, and then we're going to move forward to this young lady and how she's a leader, not just a pioneer, but a leader for solar in the city. What are we seeing here that's so new, different, exciting, yet it really is the mark of Washington, D.C., not only here, but across the United States?
Sure. So this project was managed by a good friend of mine, who is also in the industry, and has an organization called Sustainable U, and there's another one called Revolution Solar, and we all came together for this picture. And this is the Watermelon House in DC, and it was a really cool installation, and it shows also just how unique DC landscape is. It's full of murals and just a lot of lot of fun things going on in the city, and I think this watermelon house captures the moment, and it's just a really was a nice installation for us.
Mhm. Now, tell us the very interesting story about this lady who really is a pioneer, but a leader for solar in Washington, D.C., and the community that she's in, because there's a special history about where she actually lives.
Yeah, this is Miss Turner, and she lives in the Anacostia area in Southeast DC, and she was the best to work with. Her shirt says "I'm retired, you're not." Nah, 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 nah. She was just again so much fun to work with, and it's really exciting to see like these elderly and community leaders really stepping up to embrace clean energy. She's also right by the Anacostia River, which has traditionally been very polluted, and those areas are starting to be revitalized. You can swim in these areas, and there's fish in it now, and solar power is so important to reduce pollution and to help these communities. And we work with everyone in the district, and we really enjoy working in Southeast with older folks in these areas.
Yeah, these areas really have been neglected over decades, and it's just really interesting because we've been working in Anacostia now about over a decade ourselves, and the transformation is just absolutely incredible. And you have these elders that really have pioneering spirits, and it's just amazing what they're doing. But looking at these solar installations and these roofscapes. How is this really a symbol of not only the future of Washington, D.C., but the very now of Washington, D.C., but also the entire United States?
Sure. So, solar panels are I think beautiful looking. They're super high tech, and they're really helping the neighborhood. But I like this picture because it's of my neighborhood also. This is my house on the right, and my neighbors on the left. And I'm really involved in Eckington, and I'm really involved in my neighborhood. And I want my neighborhood to be clean, and I don't want a polluted neighborhood. I've started a trash pickup and a lot of different things in the neighborhood to just help our community come into the future and have a clean, bright future. And I think it's just very important to me personally to help my community and do everything possible that I can. I think clean energy is really gonna be a big part of that.
And I think also too, if you look at the greenscape that you have here, Ben, all these trees that are growing, many of them are have been planted in the last 20 or 30 years. Some of these are older legacy trees. But when you look at a city that's going 100% renewable energy, and at the same time, it wants to have over 40% of the entire surface of the city covered with trees, that tells you the mindset that you have of the administration, the citizens that live here, is that they're looking at everything. So this is really a holistic approach as far as where we're going into the future. But looking at this scene right here, there's so much going on here in this very gentle, kind, settled, quiet photograph. What are we looking at here, Ben, that really is the future of Washington, D.C., but not just Washington, D.C., the entire United States?
Yeah, this picture was taken from one of my installations off of 14th and T Street in the district, and I really like it because it just shows how green it is. It's very important for communities to have greenscapes with trees for shade purposes. It makes the areas more walkable, and they just represent I think life and the spring and just bringing life into communities. It's nice to have green trees, and it's just a nicer place to live in. I think whenever you have areas like this.
I'm going to leave this photograph up because I just think it just there's so much in here. This is actually you could give a whole course out of this one photograph. But you look at the tall scape that you have here. The trees, they're growing above the streets and bringing more shade, absorbing the carbon and all that. But when you look down at the street level, you see so much green at that level. So when you're walking this area, and this is the last question, Ben, when you're walking this area, you see this, and of course, you know this is going on all over Washington, D.C. Uh, what do you think the future is for the next 5, 10, and 15 years for Washington, D.C., but the United States, where we're taking communities across the nation and bringing them to look like this, maybe even more green?
Sure. I mean, DC is definitely going to be a beacon for the country and really the world in how we generate electricity. We're going 100% renewable energy, and we are working every day to do that. Although that's one component of it. It's also going to be changed. There's also different aspects going to be changed. We're working on different techniques for water drainage and different pollutions and planting trees, making the city more walkable. We are installing more bike lanes to reduce greenhouse emissions from transportation. We're going to have more electric vehicle charging stations, and we're really going to see the landscape change to a more modern landscape very quickly, and we're already starting to see it. And it's a really exciting future, and I'm super excited to be a part of it.
Fantastic. Ben Colbert, founder, CEO, City Renewables, thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.